All right, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the basketball show. My name is Paul, and I want to introduce to you guys our awesome guest today. He was born in Queens, New York, a national champ at UConn, 7th overall pick in 2005 NBA draft, 11-year NBA veteran. He's the pioneer, the first ever NBA player that was kind enough to join my NBA podcast, the great Charlie Villanueva. How you doing, Charlie? And thank you again for making a couple minutes for me here.
I'm doing well, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I'd like to start from the beginning. If you'd share with us how you got started with basketball and at what age that happened, and overall, how you become to love the game, and just how what influenced you to start playing.
So, a lot to unpack there, but I started playing basketball around the age of 10 years old. I grew up in Queens, New York. And I grew up in a neighborhood where sports was a big thing. My background is my parents are both from the Dominican Republic, so baseball was something that was always in our blood. My dad played baseball, my mom played softball, so baseball was the sport that kind of was going to be the one that I was going to focus on, and the game that I fell in love with first.
Gotcha.
And around 10 years old, my brother was always more into basketball. And me and my older brother, we very, very competitive. He was a big Knicks fan growing up as a child, and
that's me.
I was a more of an Indiana Pacers because I always wanted to be against him. So Reggie Miller is one of my favorite players, but. And those Indiana Pacers Knicks rivalries were crazy.
Yeah.
So I started playing basketball around the age of 10, and then I didn't really take it serious, but I was always that kid, the younger brother. I was always around my older brother. That my mom never let my brother go out alone or whatnot, go to the park alone. I would always tag along. And that's when the love of basketball kind of grew. And, I've been playing basketball, I started at 10 and then started taking it serious around 13, 14 years old. And then what helped a lot was, my freshman year in high school, I was about 6 foot tall. And then my sophomore year, that summer, that 3 or 4 month summer, I got 7 inches.
Oh,
so
wow.
Being 6'7", kind of
wow.
15 years old, was very helpful, and that's when kind of basketball kind of took off for me there.
Okay, that's awesome. But 7 inches in one summer, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's been about one summer, 3 or 4 months, man.
Right.
My knees and back were hurting, but it was all worth it when it was all said and done.
Gotcha. I know that you played with some future NBA players while you were in high school. I mean, I know in Queens and Newton High, you played with Smooch Parker.
Yep.
Then you moved to Blair Academy in Blairstown, New Jersey, and you played with Lou Aldeng over there. So, what do you remember from those days?
I just remember being in public school. I was 14? Well, I was a freshman, and I was fortunate enough to make varsity. And I backed up. I was a point guard, believe it or not, and backed up Smush Parker, who ended up playing in the league for numerous years. But I didn't really play much my first year. I learned a lot. Mind you, I was 14 years old at the time, and I was good enough, but not good enough to get like starter minutes or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But learned a lot from Smush, learned a lot from my first year. Probably averaged like 2 points a game.
Okay.
Barely played, and then that next year is when, I started averaging 30 points a game. You know what I'm saying? So it went.
That was a big jump from year to year.
It went from 2 points to 30.
Yeah.
So that's when kind of basketball became. I took it very serious, but I ended up transferring from Newtown to Blair Academy because I had a mentor whose name was Nate Blue, who was the assistant coach at the time at Newtown when I was there. And he kind of took me under the wing and kind of like guided me and was advising me that, if I want to take basketball extremely serious, and stay away from the distraction, I had to go to a different school.
Right.
Kind of had to get away from New York, so to speak, because you're 15 years old and you become the man of the team, and sometimes it can get to your head, and sometimes there's a lot of distraction being close to home.
Yeah.
So even though when I went to Blair Academy in New Jersey, I was close enough but far away from home, but it was a boarding school, so I actually stayed at Blair Academy and was fortunate enough to team up with Luol Deng at that time. And
Right.
at that time, we were the top high school players in the country. That we're the same year, which is crazy, as LeBron James. So
Yeah.
LeBron James was the number one player at the time. Luol Deng was number 2, and I was number 3.
Gotcha.
So it was pretty intense, pretty competitive in practice with him and I going against each other at all times, and just going through that journey, that process of picking a school, with another guy, that's on my level. Right. So it was an amazing experience, playing with Smush Parker and Luol Deng at the same time.
Yeah, I was doing some research on you, and I saw a clip from Luol Deng talking about you. They asked him, I don't know who he was talking to, but he said that he wasn't, when he met you and you guys started playing together, you were kicking his ass in the beginning all the time. and you made him work harder on his game and helped him out to get better. So he gave a lot of credit to you for that.
So you played with Charlie V though. You got a chance to play with Charlie V too though, right?
Yeah, man. I always tell people I'm as good as I am because of Charlie. When Charlie showed up, and I always tell people this, he came my sophomore year, and I couldn't believe how good and how talented Charlie is. And we were roommates in high school, and we would play pickup and one-on-one and whatnot, and Charlie would just destroy me. You could ask everyone in practice, and I'm just, I'm so competitive every day. I'm like, I gotta be as good as this guy, and I'm working so hard. But he was so gifted, man, and it helped me so much. Pushing each other and trying to be as good as him, that we both ended up having the career that we had.
Yeah, and I'll give a lot of credit to him, because him and I will have battles, man. Coach on purpose will put us against each other.
Yeah, that's good.
And we will get the best out of each other. Some nights I'll get the best of him, and some nights he gets the best of me.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're on the same team, so it's a beautiful thing. So it's very rare that you have two elite guys, top 3 players in the country on the same team.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean, we both were McDonald's All-Americans. We both were co-player of the year for the state of New Jersey. It was just amazing to do my high school journey, with another, NBA guy.
I mean, you had 2 good breaks, because you said you had a really good mentor. Not everybody has that directed you in the right direction to get your career off the ground. And then you had a player with you on the team that was really high level, that made you better too, which is awesome. So that's not everybody has that, which is great.
Yeah. And fortunate and blessed, man, to have, my mentor, Nate Blue is his name, and Luol Deng, because those 2 guys, shaped me up to be the player that I was.
I'm just curious, you still keep in touch with the mentor, with Nate Blue, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Blue was in,
awesome.
He was in the green room with me, and then when I got drafted, and I talked to him very often.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
This is a guy that kind of took me as like a son. He's like a father figure to me. Kind of took me under the wing, and has been a great role model for me, and I'm very thankful to have that in my life.
That's great, because some people take it for granted, and then when they get ahead, they leave everybody behind, which is not the right thing to do. So that's awesome, man. In 2003, you played an All-American game, and you played with a lot of future NBA players. Mm-hmm. Some of them I mentioned. Chris Paul played in that game. Luol Deng. LeBron James, you mentioned before. That was your team. Now the other team had Kendrick Perkins, Shannon Brown.
Yep.
And I remember Shannon Brown for one. He was 6'3", but the guy could just jump out of the gym.
Out the gym. Yeah.
I remember him on the Lakers. He was insane.
Yeah.
What was your experience during that time in that game, playing against those guys?
Get by Lavender and coming over for the block. And he's to the other. Villanueva slams it home on the feed from Paul.
Well, I mean, that was an amazing experience because, I mean, you're playing against the best players. He's the best of the best at the time. So playing against the best players in the country brought out the best in me. But not only that, but playing alongside, LeBron James, who at the time, I mean, he's still doing this thing now. He's still a monster now. At 40 years old. Which is amazing because we're the same age, and I'm like, man, I can't do this anymore. But he's doing that at a high level. It seems like he keeps getting better as he gets older.
Right.
But teaming up with him was amazing, man, because he's that guy that he's very unselfish. So whenever you do get a moment, watch that game. Watch that game because it was very exciting. And him and I decided, I'm just going to run the floor every time, run the floor. He's going to find me. He's going to find me.
Right.
And that's exactly what he did. I had a tremendous game. If it wasn't for Cleveland, we was playing in Cleveland, I think I would have gotten MVP. We was playing in Cleveland, so I get it.
So that's kind of similar to when MJ and Dominique Wilkins had their dunk contest, and it was in Chicago.
Yeah, you already know. You already know what's going to happen. So the fact that I got to play alongside him was great, and again I played alongside in the same team. Chris Paul was on our side too on the east.
Right. And
then Luol was with us too, but he was hurt. He didn't play. We had a tremendous team, and we ended up kicking the ass of the West. The West.
That's good. See, I didn't get a chance to watch that game, but I'm definitely gonna take a peek at it.
Yeah, please do.
One question about LeBron. When you were playing with him in high school, then in the All-American, and at that time, did you see something in him that he might be as good as he is right now, or not really?
Yeah, he's special. LeBron, you could tell he was special from the beginning.
Okay.
I was going against LeBron. I've heard about this kid. Like this kid from Akron, Ohio, at 15, 16 years old. And, he was already number one in the country, and he was already like solid. So
right.
This is 15, 16 years old. It's crazy. But he was just so much advanced. That gap from 1 and 2 was a big gap because he was just so advanced. He was just super mature for his age. Genetics was crazy.
I was about to ask about that. Yeah.
To jump out the gym, he's solid guy that just seemed mature for his age.
Gotcha. One question is, you entered the NBA draft in 2003 and withdrew.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason for that?
So I was good enough at the time. I was 17 years old where you can make the jump from high school to the NBA, and I wanted to test the waters. I didn't sign with an agent at the time because I knew I just wanted to see where I was at. And I remember working out for New Jersey, San Antonio, and Dallas.
Okay.
And they were talking about, me possibly being a late first round. And when I went through that process, I realized, like, man, these guys are just so much bigger and stronger than me. I'm 6 at that time. I'm probably like 6'9", 6'10", 17 years old, maybe 215 pounds, maybe. And these guys that I was going against were a lot stronger, a lot faster, just way more mature than me. I'm playing against grown men.
Right, exactly.
So I'm like, so I went through that whole process, and I realized, I made the decision on myself that I don't think I'm ready. So I ended up committing to Illinois University at the time, which I thought was the right school for me. And then at the time, Bill Self, who was a coach at that time, ended up going to Kansas. And I was going to follow him at Kansas because I liked him so much as a coach. And then when I took my visit to Kansas, and there was a tornado. I'm a New York kid.
Yeah.
I'm not used to seeing torpedoes, so I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm not doing this, man. I don't think I'm gonna come here. So at the time, I didn't really have a school to go to, and I was like, what's the top school in the country? And at that time was UConn. And I was like, okay, that's close enough to home, but not far enough. I mean, it's close enough, but far enough from New York.
Got it.
Like, you know what? I'll go to UConn. And I was blessed and fortunate enough to, they wasn't even recruiting me. And, called up the school like, hey, you guys got room for one more?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they made it happen. Of course they made it happen. And ended up going to UConn, and the rest was history.
That's cool. I was going to mention something. It just jumped out of my mind, but that's okay. I'll probably come back to it. Oh, no. You know what? I was watching an interview of yours also, and you were mentioning the schools. Mm-hmm. And I was just about to joke a little bit that I'm surprised you didn't get drawn to Illinois by the Charlie's Angels.
I did. That's probably one of the reasons why I decided to go to Illinois. I mean, they did a great job. I'm 17 years old. I grew up in Queens, grew up in the hood, and then all of a sudden, you got this school sending a private jet to pick you up. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy, right? And then as soon as I land, they have, they knew what they was doing. I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm young and active out there in the streets.
Yeah, I know what that means.
So they surrounded me with some Charlie's Angels, which I thought was pretty neat. But yeah, man, I thought I was going to Illinois, and if it wasn't for Coach Self going to a different school, going to Kansas, I probably would have ended up in Illinois, and who knows what my career would have been like. But going to UConn was a great decision because I ended up winning the championship my first year there.
Yeah, that's correct.
And playing against, Mecca Okafor, Ben Gordon, Josh Boonhill and Armstrong, Marcus Williams. These are all guys that ended up going to the Rudy Gay.
Yeah.
All guys that ended up going to the NBA. So, again, it went from, like in high school, I was always competing against, Lou Aldeng, another NBA guy. Same thing for me when I went to UConn. It was just surrounded by future NBA prospects.
That's awesome. I mean, that helped you grow a lot, and it was a good decision to withdraw from that draft in 2003 because you grew.
Yeah.
Grew, your game grew, everything, and got more mature. All that. So that was a good decision on your part.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now here comes 2005. You declare for the draft. You're feeling ready. And you get drafted by the Raptors.
Yep.
So, were you happy that you got drafted by the Raptors, or you were hoping to go somewhere else?
To be honest, no. I was happy I got drafted. Period. That's my dream. My dream was to be in the NBA, and I just remember, being sitting on that in the green room, and at the time. I knew that my draft started at number 5 because I already knew the first 4 picks were already solidified. Mm-hmm. And I worked out at the time. Charlotte Bobcats had they were called the Bobcats back then, but I remember. Pick. They were called the 5th pick. I mean, they had the 5th pick, and I worked out for Charlotte twice, so I knew that there's a possibility I might go to Charlotte. But at the time, they ended up going with a point guard. They went in with Raymond Felton. So the number 6 pick, it was Portland, and they picked a high school kid, Martell Webster. Mm-hmm. And then number 7, I knew I was going to either number 7. I knew I was going number 7 because that was the best workout in Toronto I had. Out of all the workouts that I had, Toronto was the best. And I knew. I just remember sitting in the green room, and then for the 7th pick, and I see the cameras already coming over to our table. I already knew. I was like, man, I was super relieved being picked number 7 to go to Toronto. But and then some of the experts were kind of knocking the pick and whatnot, and so that was something that I always carried a chip on my shoulder when I was playing for Toronto because they already had a guy in Chris Bosh at that position.
Right.
So, but it actually, it worked in a sense where him and I could play together. It was unfortunate that my career in Toronto was super short, because I ended up getting traded after my first year. I had a great year, rookie runner-up. I had one of the
Yeah, you was second rookie of the year. Yeah, correct.
If it wasn't for Chris Paul, I would have gotten that. I would have gotten the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And I still hold records. In the most points as a rookie, in 48 points, and in rebounds too with 18. Still to this day, that record still holds. That still stands. So proud of that. Had a good year, man. Had a good year, and unfortunately, I got introduced to the business of the NBA real quick. At 21 years old, when I got traded from Toronto to Milwaukee.
Now, my question is: do you still have the newspaper that you saw when you got drafted?
So funny story. So I get drafted, right? Boom. I do all the media stuff, celebrate with the family after dinner, have a little party, whatever. And, the next morning, that's when you go to and I've never been outside the country at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a culture shock for me. It was something different because, I travel all throughout the U.S., but never really outside the country at that time. And so going to Canada, I was just like, okay, cool. They set me up with a first class ticket. I get on the plane and they hand out the newspaper, and I'm looking at the newspaper. Boom! And guess who's it? It's me. I'm like, oh. So I'm like, I'm trying to hide myself, and I don't remember exactly what he said word for word, but it was something about did like Toronto make the right pick or something like that.
Right.
So I'm like, man, okay, this is how we're gonna start off, my journey. But it was cool, I've always been an underdog. I always was the type of dude that, I can handle adversity at any time. It's like whatever's thrown at me, I'll make it work. So
do you still have that paper, or you get lost over time?
I don't think I have it. I don't even think I didn't take it because I didn't want. I didn't want nothing to do with it. But
Gotcha.
I remember it. I made a note of it. I made a mental note of it for sure, and it helped me out throughout that first year for sure.
It gave you some motivation. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
After Toronto, you 3 years in Milwaukee. I think 5 seasons in Detroit, and then you ended your career 2 years in Dallas, and Texas, where you live now. So, which do you consider your best time you had playing ball as a professional? Because statistically, your best season was in Detroit, was in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, yeah.
I think you were averaging like 16.4 or something like that.
Yeah. So my best years were definitely in Milwaukee. I had a lot of fun in Milwaukee, had a good time. We didn't really have a good team, but we had a bunch of guys that were good guys and got along very well. And then when I got signed to Detroit, Detroit was one of the most difficult challenges in my basketball career because I faced a lot of injuries. I faced a lot of adversity there. When I signed with Detroit, I say that these were my darkest days because it's where I made the most money, but it was also the time that I was my least happiest. I wasn't happy at all. And you would think that, money solves every problem.
Yeah, it was just money's not everything. Yeah,
money's not everything because it was the least. I was super unhappy and darkest times because of all the challenges and the injuries and the environment I was in. It was extremely toxic. Nothing against Detroit. It was just the time. It was just a bad time, and organization wasn't kind of in shambles. Was figuring things out. Because Detroit was always, was a powerhouse in the East back in those days. They won a championship in 2000.
Yeah.
They went to the Eastern Conference Finals like 3 or 4 years in a row. Like they were that team to beat. Yeah,
when you got there, they were about 2 years away from when they still had Rasheed Wallace, Billups, Hamilton. They were still that big team, and then everything just started changing over there. Yeah.
And everything changed, the year that I got there, and then when me and Ben Gordon signed, who I played with at UConn, when we signed together to go to Detroit, we were kind of leaning on the older guys, the guys that kind of been there to kind of bring us in. But there was just a lot of, the team was divided and the chemistry wasn't there. We had a bunch of good individuals, but we wasn't good as a team. And basketball is a team sport, and if you can't work together, it's not going to work. And
Exactly.
it's shown on our record. That we didn't win much games. We struggled a lot, but those were my 5 darkest years in Detroit.
All 5, okay.
Yeah, so all 5 were dark, to be honest. And then I personally thought my career was over in Detroit, to be honest. And coming to Dallas kind of gave me that refresh start. And I was at the end of my career though, but it was super humbling. And I learned a lot by being in Dallas.
Okay. You were a part of, while you were still in Toronto as a rookie, you saw Kobe Bryant score 81.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Kobe Bryant score 81. And I saw one of your interviews also, and everybody's talking about Jalen Rose getting the brunt of it. But not, I went through the game and I kind of looked through it. Jalen got about 30, but I didn't see you get anything.
I personally don't think I got any of it, to be honest.
Nothing.
I was on the court. But man, that was crazy to watch, man, because that was a year where Kobe was just on one. And I remember a couple previous games before he scored 81, he scored 60 some, I believe, on Dallas, only in 3 quarters.
I think 61. Yeah, I think
61 in 3 quarters. He sat out the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So Kobe was on one. And then, obviously, when he played against us, it was like, the game plan was, Kobe's going to get his. He's going to get his no matter what. As long as those other guys don't do their thing, we're going to be all right. And there you go. Kobe had like 30 in the first half, 32, 33, something like that in the first half. And then had whatever the math is, 40 the next, whatever it is, 39 or 40 it was the next quarter. I mean, the next half. So that was just amazing. It was crazy. It was almost like video game like.
NBA Jam back in the day.
NBA Jam back in He on Fire type deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was cooking. It was that look. I mean, there's nothing you could really do. I mean, he was making everything. They just kept feeding him the ball. We would send 2 guys at him. We sent 3 guys at him. And he's still taking the shot. He's not passing the ball. So, and he was making, there's nothing you could have done. We could have done better. But what's crazy is throughout that whole game, we were winning. We was winning throughout that whole game. And then towards the end, that 4th quarter, they kind of turned up and they ended up winning the game, man. But watching that firsthand was like, wow. I'm 21 years old. This is a guy that I grew up watching. Yeah,
that was an experience being for a rookie, man.
Yeah, being on the same court as him and watching him have that type of performance was remarkable.
Yeah, part of history, man. You're part of history.
Yeah, but
second highest scoring game ever. But you're a rookie. You got an excuse. Come on.
Yeah. And I didn't get any of that 81.
That's it.
What's kind of cool though is rest in peace Kobe Bryant. But exactly. On the statue that they did for him in LA, I'm actually on that statue because they put the box score.
Okay.
Game on the statue. So I guess I'm part of history in the wrong way and if you're ever in LA, check that statue out. You see my name on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Now let me ask you: do you watch NBA these days?
Yeah, I do. I tend to go to most of, not all, but a majority of the Dallas Mavs games. I love watching the game. Even though the game has changed a lot from when I played.
I was about to ask, like, what do you think? Like, do you like the game, how they play right now? Because I saw a podcast and Shaq was on not too long ago. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. He was talking about it. And he said that the game changed so much, it almost got boring to the point everybody's just shooting threes right now and running the same plays.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say it got boring. It's more exciting in the sense of there's no defense being played, right? Some of these scores be like 140 to 130 some.
Yeah.
And a lot of 3-pointers. Yeah, so it's not focus on the defensive end where it's tough and gritty. You know, back in the Detroit days, you know, you're lucky to score 70 or 80 points.
Yeah.
You know, and now that's a half. You know, nowadays, you know, 80 points in the half. You know, so the game has changed a lot. It's not as physical at all. It's definitely gotten softer. But as far as, you know, offensively and entertaining, you know, the game has gotten better. Because some of these guys, you know, they're super athletic. You know, guys like, you know, Steph Curry shooting threes, you know, from half court. You know, you used to never see that back in the day. You know, now that's a normal shot for him.
Yeah.
And not only him, but you got guys like John Moran, who's super athletic, doing some crazy stuff. You know, Jason Tatum, Luka, you know, you got all these guys. I think the league is in good hands with all these young guys. But the game has changed. I mean, you can't compare from back then to now. The game has changed drastically.
Yeah, Luka amazes me because sometimes during the game, he's kind of a weird player. He almost looks like he's moving in slow motion compared to everybody else, but he still outplays everybody. He still gets the position. He still gets room to shoot, and he makes crazy shots a lot of times, man. He's
one thing with Luka, man. He's been playing professional for a long time, so he's been playing
in Europe, right?
For Europe, you know, for a long time. So his basketball IQ is unbelievable. He's very smart. He knows how to use his body. He's slow motion, but he's very effective.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of resembles a little bit of another player that played for Dallas is Dirk. Dirk is extremely slow. But I mean, he was also 7 feet.
Yeah.
And he can shoot and is very, very gifted offensively. So yeah, man, the game is in good hands with some of these young guys, man, for sure.
I would like it to get a little bit more physical again. A little bit. Just I like the grind out game sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Yeah, remember the league is a business, man. It's a business. And at the end of the day, like the fans might not want to see that. They want to see the high scoring, athletic, the flashy play. So they're gonna cater to that. You know,
that's true,
they're gonna cater to what the people want to see. And the ratings at the end of the day is what dictate how the game is played, man. Let's call it what it is. It is a business. But yeah, man, the game is definitely changed drastically, but it's in a good direction, man, with these young guys.
I understand you're a Jordan guy because I spoke to you before. Mm-hmm. But I do have to ask you on video. You know, there's a lot of debate, GOAT, NBA GOAT, all that other stuff. James and Jordan, who's your choice and why? If you could just elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm in the era of Michael Jordan. Grew up watching him, and obviously me and LeBron, we're the same age, so it's tough for me on that standpoint to pick him as the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
the same age, but if you look at number wise, I mean, LeBron he's the highest scorer ever, but he also played longer than Jordan.
Right.
You know, he has fewer championships than Jordan, but he's also went to the finals, you know, however many times he went.
I think 10. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, when you look at the teams outside of maybe Miami, you know, he took a Cleveland team, you know, and then they had Kyrie Irving. But if you look at the teams that LeBron was on and Jordan was on, I think Jordan was on better teams than LeBron. But I also think, you know, Jordan was a better defender. I also think, you know, Jordan was playing in an era that there was no social media, but he was a global icon. So I'll give the nods to
MJ,
to Jordan, but LeBron is still writing his story.
Yeah, true.
So when it's all said and done, I think LeBron will surpass Jordan. But it's just it's just unreal what LeBron is doing. I mean, he's playing, for God's sakes, his son is in the NBA. He's playing with. So, even though that's a no other conversation, but
I do have a question about it though.
I mean, I guess go ahead, shoot for it then. What is your question about?
I mean, my question is this. You just mentioned Bronny is in the NBA playing with LeBron. There's like two camps of people. One camp is saying, unfortunately, he shouldn't be in the league. And others say he has talent, but he just needs a little bit of time to develop that talent. I don't think he's going to be a superstar or whatever, but he could be a good role player. That's what a lot of people say. Now, he's been demoted to the G League recently. He had his moment with his dad on the NBA court. He's not ready for the NBA game yet, so he needs the G League to develop. But, there was some information coming from Brian Windhorst, I think, recently, that he's only playing in the home games of the Lakers G League team and not even traveling with them. Now, it's just weird. I mean, I made a video on the channel a little bit ago mentioning that before the season even started. And I think that kind of situation creates a little bit of resentment from players in the NBA, players in the G League. And it's just a tough situation for a lot of people to understand and kind of grasp. You're a father, I'm a father, so he's a father. He's doing it as a father too, so he's got a different outlook on that.
I respect the hell out of LeBron, as a father aspect, because I commend him for that. That's what you want to do. You want to put your kids on, right? But the downside to that is that I personally don't think he's ready. Bronny is not, at this current time, is just not good enough. He had, a heart condition, and when he was at USC, he was, let's call it what it is, he was on a bad team. And he didn't really play well. But, I get it. He gets drafted because of potential. Does he have potential? Yes. But it's just a tough situation because at the end of the day, man, people look at you. You're LeBron's son. So, you got a target on your back at all times.
Yep.
So, even him going to the G League is going to be tough because both boys is hungry over there.
Yeah.
They are hungry. Oh, you LeBron's kid? Okay.
Yeah. They're going to go after him,
single game. That is tough. So, I feel bad for him in the sense where his dad is who he is, and people are always going to compare, and people are always going to come at you just because of that simple fact. But he's been handling it pretty good, and I don't think he's ready now to be in the NBA. He's not. Can he be down the line? Yes. But I think he's years away. Like, I don't even think he's, not even like a next year type of deal. Like, I think he's a couple years away. But I get it. He gets more of an opportunity because of who his dad is, and I respect it. And at the end of the day, you got to respect that because what LeBron has done for this game has been nothing but amazing. So we have to respect that. And it's one of those things, man. It's like you're the CEO of something and you just hand it over to your son. Yeah. This is what's going to happen. So I commend him for that as a father. But as a ball player, I don't think Bronny is ready. Can he be ready down the road is to be determined. But I feel for him because them boys in the G League is it's a little weird, the fact that he's only playing the home game.
Yeah.
And I think he will benefit a lot more if he played more because he has to keep playing. You're young. You have to keep playing, keep developing. But he's definitely not ready for the NBA at all.
Gotcha.
And it's shown, and it has shown because when he's out there, he's just not ready.
Michael Jordan as the GOAT for now.
Yeah.
But what's your all-time starting five? All-time players.
All-time starting five.
I've heard so many different.
I'm gonna go from center to point guard. So for my center, I know you got the Wilt Chamberlain, the Kareem. I've never seen those guys play.
Right.
So I cannot pick the guys I've never seen play.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna go with the most dominant big man center to ever play the game, and to me is that Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq, got it.
Shaq is the most dominant big man that I've ever seen play. So I'm gonna put him at my center. And that gets interesting at 4. At number 4, my power forward spot. I'm gonna go with a guy that it was probably a little boring to pick this guy, but he is Mr. Fundamentals.
Duncan.
And he is a winner.
Yeah.
He is a proven winner.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Tim Duncan because he's a boring player, but he's super dominant.
Yeah.
Super fundamental, he's a winner. So I'm gonna pick Tim Duncan. Now that gets crazy right now. Now it gets interesting because I might have to put it's tough. Damn. I'm gonna have to go with LeBron as my small forward. But then I got Kobe too. So I'm gonna go with LeBron as small forward, shooting guard MJ, and my point guard is gonna be I like Allen Iverson.
Okay.
But I also like Steph Curry. I also like
it's tough, man.
John Stockton. I also like Steve Nash. But I'm gonna pick a point guard. I'm gonna pick. Oh, you got Magic, right?
Yeah.
But even though Magic was a little past my era, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with AI on that one.
Okay, not bad. That's a lot of scoring right there, man.
That's a lot of scoring. Yeah. I'm thinking in today's game, those 5 will be good. We'll fill up the stat sheet for sure.
Gotcha. What would you say to the younger generation now as an 11-year NBA vet? What would you tell young guys in high school, just starting college, playing ball, to give themselves the best chance of going professional? I know it's tough and it's a low percentage that even make it, but what's the way to give yourself the best chance to do that?
The best advice I can give is to keep working on your craft and try to separate yourself from what others are doing. Like, because at the end of the day, if practice is, from 8 to 10, make sure you're the first one there, make sure you're the last one to leave, and make sure you're putting in extra work, getting extra shots, spending extra time and working on your game, because there's somebody else always doing that, right? So you got to kind of constantly work on your game, work on your craft, and be coachable, man. One thing is you have to be a sponge and learn from as much from your coaches, from anybody that you can learn from. To keep working on your craft and don't take no days off, man. Just be locked in and be determined to achieve that goal.
Right. Okay, Charlie, I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you for coming on. I enjoyed the conversation a lot. I hope you did as well. You're the first guy, like I said, that come onto my podcast, and I appreciate it greatly.
No doubt.
Thank you again, and maybe sometime in the future we could talk again if something's going on. So that'd be nice.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, and I have no problem, man, being on this show, man. It's pretty dope. I'm always up for talking sports, so
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.